Age is just a mirror of the mind. Have you ever been stopped in a grocery store or at a family gathering by someone who looked at you and said, "Wait, you're how old?" It happens. And when it does, most of us smile, laugh a little, and take it as a compliment. But what if there's more to that moment than just flattery? What if people aren't just reacting to your skin or your hair, but to something deeper, something less visible, but far more powerful? You see, in the philosophy of Stoicism, we learn that everything external is just an echo of what lies within. And this includes how we age. It's easy to assume that looking young comes from good genetics, expensive skincare, or the right lighting. But in reality, many of those who appear youthful, well into their 40s, 50s, and even 60s, share something else, a different way of living, a quieter strength, a deeper sense of peace, a more intentional relationship with time, emotion, and energy. And that's what this video is about. Today, we're not going to talk about creams, diets, or surgeries. We're going to explore 7 hidden, often overlooked reasons why some people seem to resist the aging process. Not just on the outside, but in their energy, their spirit, and their presence. And yes, we'll be doing it through the lens of Stoic wisdom, the kind that has endured for over 2,000 years. These reasons aren't just random habits or lucky accidents. They're rooted in how you respond to life's pressures. They're born from how you manage hardship, how you carry your emotions, how you engage with the present, how you move forward without dragging the past behind you. If you've ever looked in the mirror and thought, "I don't feel my age," this might explain why. If strangers often think you're younger than your birth certificate claims, there's probably a reason. And if you're someone who feels tired, worn down, or older than you used to be, this video might just be the reset you need. Because here's the truth. Youth isn't just a phase of life. It's a state of being. And that state can be nurtured, protected, and even reclaimed, regardless of your age. So I invite you to take this journey with me, to examine the 7 invisible qualities that help you remain timeless. Not ageless in a superficial sense, but timeless in a much deeper one. This is the silent thinker. And what you're about to hear isn't just philosophy. It's a quiet revolution for the soul. Let's begin. Part 1. Resilience, the hidden youth serum. There's something quietly extraordinary about a person who has suffered, yet smiles. Someone who's lost things that would break most people, yet stands tall. You can feel it. You can see it. And often, you can't help but notice. They look younger than their years. What's their secret? It's not collagen. It's not kale. It's resilience. Now, in modern life, we often treat resilience as just another buzzword, a motivational slogan, or a shallow chant to keep going. But in the Stoic tradition, resilience is sacred. It is the inner armor that protects not just your peace of mind, but your vitality. The Stoics understood something modern science is just beginning to prove. Stress doesn't just affect your mind. It wears down your body, day by day, layer by layer, like a silent thief stealing your brightness, your posture, your very presence. You've seen this before. The face lined with tension, the shoulders always slightly hunched, the breath always shallow, the energy dulled by years of internal battles never truly faced or released. Now compare that to someone who's lived through the same chaos, but wears it differently. They've been betrayed. They've failed. They've wept in silence, but they refuse to let their pain become permanent. They let it pass through them, not define them. And as a result, their skin glows. Their eyes are alive. Their spirit is youthful. That is resilience. And it is more than survival. It is transformation. Think of a tree growing through the cracks of an abandoned sidewalk. It doesn't shout. It doesn't ask for approval. It simply rises. That is what resilient people do. They don't deny pain, but they don't collapse beneath it either. In fact, many who appear eternally young are not those who've avoided suffering. They're the ones who have refused to be disfigured by it. Modern research confirms this. Chronic stress raises cortisol, a hormone that, in high doses over long periods, damages your immune system, your skin elasticity, your sleep, and even your memory. But resilience, true, quiet resilience, keeps that cortisol in check. It keeps the body from remaining in fight or flight mode long after the threat has passed. And here's the Stoic twist. Resilience isn't just born from willpower, it's born from wisdom. When you accept that life will bring hardship, that pain, betrayal, and loss are inevitable, then pain stops being a surprise. And when pain stops being a surprise, it loses its power to crush you. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "If you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it, and this you have the power to revoke at any moment." That's not just philosophy. That's a path to youth. Because the moment you stop fighting against what you cannot control, your body stops fighting too. It relaxes, it breathes, it heals, and you, in turn, glow. So ask yourself, when life hits hard, do you freeze? Do you carry pain like a badge, or release it like old skin? Are you surviving, or are you transcending? Because in the long run, it's not just what you go through that ages you. It's how you carry it. And resilience, real resilience, is the hidden serum that keeps not only your heart strong, but your body young. Part 2, adaptability, the secret anti-aging power of change. Some people grow old, fast, not because of their age, but because of their refusal to change. They hold on tightly to routines, to beliefs, to identities, even when those things no longer serve them. And in time, their rigidity begins to show in their body, in their language, in the way their eyes no longer sparkle when the world shifts around them. You see, aging doesn't always begin in the bones. It often begins in the mind. And the first symptom isn't gray hair, it's resistance. But those who remain young, in energy, in posture, in spirit, often have one hidden superpower: adaptability. The Stoics knew this well. To them, life was not meant to be controlled. It was meant to be navigated, like a sailor guiding his ship through unpredictable winds. As Epictetus said, it's not things that upset us, but our judgment about things. And nothing triggers our judgment faster than change. But here's the paradox. The more you resist change, the more you suffer. And suffering, prolonged and internalized, is what accelerates aging. Emotionally, mentally, even physically. You've likely met someone who still lives in the past. They speak of the good old days with a sigh. They frown at new technology. They dismiss new music, new perspectives, new anything. They don't realize it, but their world is shrinking, and with it, their vitality. Now contrast that with the 65-year-old woman who took up painting last year, or the retired veteran who learned to play jazz saxophone at 70, or the man in his 50s who switched careers, learned coding, and never looked back. These people don't just feel young. They are young because they've remained flexible. They've embraced the Stoic ideal of living in harmony with nature. And nature, if you observe it closely, is never stagnant. Even the mountains shift. Even the trees bend in the wind. So what happens when we stop resisting change? We begin to move with life. Our bodies relax. Our minds open. Our creativity returns. Neuroscience backs this up. Learning new skills at any age keeps the brain young. Neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to form new pathways, doesn't disappear with age unless you stop using it. Mental stagnation leads to physical dullness, but mental flexibility, that keeps the inner flame alive. And there's a quiet beauty in someone who greets change with grace. They don't flinch when routines are disrupted. They don't panic when plans shift. They smile. They adjust. They flow. And in doing so, they radiate something we all crave. A lightness. A presence that says, I am not stuck. I am still becoming. So I ask you this, when was the last time you tried something new? Not because you had to, but because you wanted to. When was the last time you allowed life to redirect you without bitterness? If it's been a while, maybe it's time to loosen your grip, because youth doesn't cling. Youth adapts. And the most timeless souls I've ever met weren't those who held on the longest. They were those who let go the quickest and flowed with the river of life instead of drowning in it. Change is coming, whether you invite it or not. But how you greet it, that, my friend, is what determines how young your spirit will remain. Part 3. Curiosity, the flame that keeps the mind alive. There's something unmistakably vibrant about a curious mind. You can hear it in their voice. You can feel it in their presence. And more often than not, you can see it on their face. Their eyes shine a little brighter. Their smile lingers just a bit longer. They ask questions instead of clinging to answers. And while most people age like stones, slowly gathering moss, the curious keep moving. Not always physically, but mentally, spiritually, internally. That's the kind of youthfulness the Stoics admired. Not the youth of soft skin or fast feet, but the youth of an active soul. You see, the Stoics weren't passive philosophers. They didn't sit in dark rooms repeating ancient mantras. They were explorers of the human condition. They asked questions like, what is in my control? What is virtue? What does it mean to live well? They were endlessly curious. And that curiosity, that deep hunger to understand, is one of the most underrated secrets to staying young. In modern life, we often mistake repetition for safety. We stick to our routines. We watch the same shows, talk to the same people, eat the same meals, think the same thoughts. And over time, the mind begins to dull. Not because it's old, but because it's bored. A bored mind ages faster. It stops asking, stops wondering, stops noticing the tiny miracles that are hiding in plain sight. But curious people, they don't just stay mentally sharp. They stay spiritually alive. They read new books. They try new ideas, not to agree or disagree, but just to understand. They take a different route home. They pick up hobbies that challenge their comfort zones. They listen more than they talk. They question more than they judge. And do you know what happens to a person like that? They glow, literally. Studies show that cognitive stimulation, learning, exploring, challenging your beliefs, increases blood flow to the brain, slows down memory loss, and even improves skin elasticity by reducing long-term stress. But even beyond science, curiosity carries something that no serum can deliver: the sense that life is still unfolding, that it still holds surprises, that your best questions haven't even been asked yet. That's the fire I'm talking about. And when that fire burns, it softens your face, it lifts your posture, it brings a spark to your tone. The body follows where the mind leads. And when the mind is curious, the body forgets to grow old. So I ask you, when was the last time you read something that challenged you? When was the last time you let a question guide your day? Are you still exploring? Or have you already decided that everything worth knowing has been known? Because youth is not a date on the calendar. It's the ability to greet each day with the phrase, "I wonder." And if you can keep wondering, keep seeking, then no number on your birthday cake will ever define you. In the words of Seneca, as long as you live, keep learning how to live. Part 4. Emotional honesty. Express to stay alive. Some people walk into a room and carry a storm with them, but they never say a word. Their shoulders are tight. Their eyes are distant. Their voice feels flat, not because they're cold, but because they've been holding too much for too long. And if you look closely, you can see it in their face, not just in the wrinkles, but in the weight. The kind of weight that doesn't come from time, but from silence. You see, in our culture, we've mistaken strength for suppression. We've learned to bite our tongue, to smile when we want to scream, to nod when our hearts are breaking, to say, "I'm fine," when we're absolutely not. But emotional honesty isn't weakness. It's wisdom. It's resilience. And according to both Stoic thought and modern science, it's essential for long-term youth. Now, let me be clear. The Stoics weren't emotionally numb. They weren't robots. They felt deeply. But what made them Stoic was not their silence. It was their clarity. They didn't suppress emotion. They observed it. They honored it. And then they released it. As Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." And part of that power is allowing yourself to feel. Because here's the truth. Suppressed emotion doesn't disappear. It disguises itself. In the body, it shows up as tension. In the skin, it shows up as stress lines. In the eyes, it dulls the light. In the breath, it shortens your rhythm. In your energy, it slowly drains the spark that makes you feel alive. How many people do you know who seem older than they are? And how many of them have spent decades pretending everything was okay? Compare that to someone who's emotionally honest. They laugh without holding back. They cry when the moment calls for it. They speak when something needs to be said. They grieve fully, then return to peace. That kind of expression doesn't wear you down. It frees you. It opens space. It clears emotional toxins. It brings oxygen back to your soul. And it makes you feel lighter and look younger. Science agrees. People who express emotions in healthy ways, through conversation, writing, therapy, or creative outlets, have lower cortisol levels, stronger immune systems, and longer life expectancy. But beyond biology, emotional honesty is what keeps you real, and realness is refreshing. There's something beautiful about a person who's no longer pretending. They carry peace. And peace, my friend, is the greatest cosmetic of all. So ask yourself, what have you been holding in that needs to come out? What truth have you buried beneath politeness? When was the last time you allowed yourself to feel fully without judgment? Because youth doesn't come from hiding. It comes from healing. And healing begins the moment you stop lying to yourself about how you truly feel. Let it out. Speak it. Write it. Sing it. Cry it. Laugh it. Let the soul breathe. Because every time you release what you're not meant to carry, your face softens, your heart opens, and your body remembers what it feels like to be alive again. Part 5. The energy of your circle. Choose your company. Choose your youth. Have you ever walked into a room and felt your chest tighten for no clear reason? Or spoken to someone for 5 minutes and afterward felt drained for the rest of the day? That's not imagination. That's energy. And whether we realize it or not, we absorb it. Just as plants lean towards sunlight, humans lean or wilt, depending on who they stand next to. The Stoics taught us to be self-reliant, but they never said we were immune to influence. Seneca, the great Roman philosopher, once warned, associate with people who are likely to improve you. Not flatter you, not agree with you, but improve you. Because the truth is simple and dangerous to ignore. The company you keep affects how you age. Spend your time around bitterness, and bitterness will slowly settle in your bones. Surround yourself with constant complaints, and your spirit will begin to sink. Live in an environment of fear, gossip, or small-mindedness, and don't be surprised when you start to feel old before your time. Energy is contagious, but so is fatigue. And no cream or supplement can undo the toll of chronic exposure to negativity. Now think about the people who seem to glow no matter how old they are. They aren't just lucky, they're selective. They choose their tribe carefully. They seek out conversations that lift, not conversations that linger like smoke. They spend time with people who challenge them to grow, not pull them into cycles of drama or despair. And when they walk into a room, they don't absorb the energy. They set it. That's not arrogance. That's discipline. They know their spirit is a garden, and not everything deserves to be planted there. Modern science echoes this wisdom. Studies show that people who experience regular positive social interaction, laughter, connection, shared purpose, have lower inflammation, stronger immunity, and a slower rate of cellular aging. But beyond the biology, there's something even more important. People who are surrounded by warmth age lighter because they carry less emotional armor, less self-defense, less inner exhaustion. So ask yourself, who do you allow into your mental space? Are your conversations nourishing or just noise? Do the people closest to you leave you feeling restored or reduced? Because sometimes it's not time that's aging you, it's your environment. And one of the most powerful steps toward reclaiming your energy, your youth, is to audit your circle. You don't need to hate anyone. You don't need to create drama. You simply need to decide which connections are feeding your spirit and which are bleeding it. In the end, youth is not a solo effort. It's a shared frequency. And when you align with the right people, those who bring joy, truth, depth, and warmth, you don't just feel younger. You become someone who helps others feel younger too. Part 6. Purpose and passion. the fire behind the glow. There's a certain look in the eyes of someone who's lost their sense of purpose. They might be physically healthy. Their life might be fine by most standards, but the spark is gone. They wake up, go through the motions, check the boxes, but they are not alive. And slowly, that inner emptiness begins to show on the outside. Their posture slouches. Their voice flattens. Their presence fades. That is what happens when passion dies before the body does. Now contrast that with someone who has a reason to get up in the morning. It doesn't have to be a grand mission. It could be a garden, a story they're writing, a skill they're learning, a cause they believe in, or simply the desire to grow a little bit more than they did yesterday. Whatever it is, it pulls them forward. It animates them. It lights up their face, sharpens their mind, and gives their body rhythm. This is the power of purpose. And in the Stoic tradition, it's sacred. Marcus Aurelius, perhaps the most famous Stoic emperor, wrote, "At dawn, when you have trouble getting out of bed, tell yourself, I have to go to work as a human being." For the Stoics, purpose wasn't optional. It was a moral duty. To waste your talents, to ignore your nature, to drift through life without direction, was to betray your soul. And science now agrees. People with a strong sense of purpose live longer. They recover faster from illness. They have lower levels of stress and depression. And yes, they tend to look and feel younger than their peers. Why? Because the mind and body are designed to move towards something. Not just survive, but contribute, create, connect. When that drive is gone, so is the vitality. I once met a 72-year-old man who had more energy than people half his age. He had wrinkles. He walked with a cane. But his eyes danced. He ran a small nonprofit teaching woodworking to troubled teens. And every time he talked about it, his whole face came alive. That's purpose. He didn't just wake up to pass time. He woke up to build something. So ask yourself, what gives your day meaning? What excites you, even in silence? Are you merely existing, or are you becoming? Because here's the hard truth. Without purpose, time becomes heavy. But with it, time becomes fuel. And when you're fueled by passion, your body remembers how to glow. Not because you're chasing youth, but because you've stopped drifting and started burning. Part 7. Letting go of the past, the last gift you give to yourself. Some people don't age from the outside in. They age from the inside out. Not because of years, but because of what they refuse to release. They carry memories like scars. They replay betrayals like broken records. They drag guilt, resentment, regret everywhere they go. And over time, their faces harden. Their bodies tense. Their joy disappears. What they don't realize is that the past doesn't just live in the mind. It stores itself in the body, in the way you breathe, in the way you sleep, in the way you look at the world. And left unchecked, that weight will age you faster than any passing year. But the Stoics, they knew this trap well. They called it attachment to what no longer exists. They warned us not to confuse memory with meaning. Because meaning is something you choose. Memory is something that simply happens. As Epictetus wrote, freedom is the only worthy goal in life. And freedom means being free from things that we cannot control. And the past is one of those things. You cannot rewrite it. You cannot undo it. You cannot make them apologize. You cannot relive it better. But you can choose to stop carrying it. And when you do, you'll feel it. Not in your mind first, but in your body. Like loosening a belt after years of tension. Like letting air into a room that's been shut for too long. I've seen it with my own eyes. People who age decades in their 30s because of pain they refuse to process. And people in their 60s who reverse that aging, not with surgery, but with surrender. They forgave people who would never say sorry. They forgave themselves. They stopped trying to change what had already been written, and they began to write new chapters, not by erasing the past, but by no longer letting it narrate the present. Science backs it up. Letting go, especially through practices like forgiveness, mindfulness, and emotional processing, lowers stress hormones, boosts immune function, and improves overall well-being. But beyond the science, there's something even deeper. When you let go, you lighten. Your face softens. Your words become kinder. Your presence becomes warmer. Because forgiveness is not about pretending it didn't hurt. It's about no longer letting it own you. So ask yourself, what are you still carrying that no longer serves you? Who are you punishing by holding on? Them or yourself? What would happen if, just for today, you let it go? Because youth isn't the absence of age. It's the absence of emotional burden. And when you release what's heavy, you become someone who floats through life again. Not because it's easy, but because you've made peace with the weight. And that kind of peace, it doesn't just heal your spirit, it restores your glow. Timelessness is a choice. So now you've seen them. 7 reasons why some people seem untouched by time. Not because they discovered a secret skincare routine, but because they've chosen a different way to live. Let's recap gently. They refuse to be broken by hardship. They adapt instead of resist. They nurture curiosity like a sacred flame. They express emotion instead of swallowing it. They choose relationships that give, not drain. They live with purpose, not pass time. And perhaps most powerfully, they release the past before it turns into weight. These aren't surface-level habits. They are deep psychological postures. And like all things Stoic, they are choices made in silence, every single day. You see, most people wait for the world to make them feel young. They chase compliments, products, or new distractions. But real youth, the kind that glows in your eyes and softens your presence, doesn't come from what you put on your skin. It comes from what you take off your soul. The anger, the pressure, the grudges, the fear of change, the emptiness of a day without meaning. When you remove those things, something magical happens. You return to your natural state, alive, attentive, light. You become someone others notice, not because of how you look, but because of how you feel to be around. And they might say, "You don't look your age." But what they're really seeing is your inner freedom. As the Stoics would say, time is not your enemy. Misalignment is. So don't fight the calendar. Align your life with truth, with virtue, with intention, and the years will follow you, not the other way around. If this message spoke to you, take a moment, breathe it in, reflect, then share it with someone who might need it too. And if you haven't yet, subscribe to The Silent Thinker. This is a space for deeper living, not louder noise. In the comments, tell me this. What's one habit or mindset shift that's helped you feel more alive, more youthful, more whole, No matter your age, let's learn from each other. Because in the end, aging is inevitable. But how you wear your years, that, my friend, is a conscious, beautiful choice. Stay curious, stay grounded, and above all, stay timeless.